And we are back to the live. So for everybody joining us, this is Andrew from Burke Cashflow Investors. So welcome back to the live. We do these every Monday, Wednesday, and on Fridays. So welcome back. So every week, basically, we try to have questions from the audience, and we try to address those questions. So we have a few different questions, and today we're going to go through those. So if you have any friends, family, other fellow investors that would like to join, learn about real estate investing, this is the place to get them to have their questions answered and some questions. So there was a couple people that actually had sent in questions and had sent their properties about 3 weeks ago or so. I was talking about a property that was a multi-unit property that somebody happens to be from Mastery, but happens to listen to the live also. They just closed on the property. And the exciting part is not only did they buy the property, but the property rehab got done. And the appraisal value just came back. So they had bought that property for $348,000. They had put about about $65,000 to rehab the property, and the appraisal just came back at $610,000. I thought it would come back somewhere around 530, 540, and it came back at $610,000 for this for this 4-unit property. So congratulations to them. Super excited, because not only did the value come back, but they had borrowed the purchase money, and they had basically put 15% out of pocket, and then they had borrowed the rest of the money to buy the property, as well as to be able to do the rehab. And what is exciting is at a $610,000, 610, and they're doing a 0.75 refi, so they're going to be able to refinance $457,000. So if I take their expense out of that current situation, they're going to walk away with a check at the end of the refinance for almost $38,000 or so when everything is said and done. So it's exciting to be able to see people not only that are from Mastery, but they listen to the lives. And so congratulations to them. And what is more exciting is not just that they were able to do the deal, that every single month that particular property after expenses makes them about $2,800 a month net. That's not gross, that is net. And they're actually doing they're doing a crash pad with that. So crash pad means for pilots, for flight attendants. Basically, that's what they're kind of converting that property into, and it is fully booked. So congratulations to them. It's kind of exciting to be able to share that story. So the second question was, and second congratulations, I want to say, was to a couple of people that just did a flip. And on that flip, these guys are from Mastery. In the first flip, they did $42,000 in terms of a profit. So congratulations. We will have their names, and to recognize them, I don't have that right in front of me right now. So let's address the questions that came in. So question number one that came in was, how do I get started when I have low funds and I don't have perfect credit? So this is a normal thing. A lot of people start with low funds and not just the best credit or perfect credit. So there are a couple of routes that you can go, right? The biggest thing is that, do you have a good quality property? If you have a good quality property, you can certainly partner with someone else to basically be able to get a loan. Let's just say you don't have the credit where you can get a loan. Generally, for a fix and flip, they'll go down as low as about 650 in terms of credit. Now, let's just say you don't have the 650 credit score, and you don't have the down payment. You don't have 10% or 15% to put down. So the way I would do it is I would do a JV. Early on, I used to do JVs with people all the time. where I didn't have, like, I was trying to do my third property. I could only do two with the little money I had, and I want to do a third one, or I want to do a fourth one or a fifth one at the same time. Right. Even the first property I did, I had $20,000 I had borrowed from a home equity line, and I partnered with a friend of mine, and he put in 20,000. That's how I was able to put the down payment. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? We all have humble beginnings, and that's perfectly fine. So number one, you can partner with somebody on a deal. Number two, you can basically wholesale the deal to somebody else, and that's fine also, right? But the key issue is that the question was, how do I get started if I have low funds or I don't have perfect credit? Guys, the secret to real estate is not necessarily how much money you have. The secret is, can you find a good deal? Right? That's really at the net bottom line. That's really the secret, right? I'll give you guys an example. There's a property that I'm just closing on in Lansing. And so I have that particular property under contract for $75,000. My cost for the closing and everything is going to be about, everything said and done, somewhere around $80,000. Now, I don't want to keep the property, so I'm just wholesaling it to somebody else for about $100,000. Right? And they're going to put about 30,000 into the property and keep the property. So even though I'm just wholesaling the property at the time of purchase, guess what? Do I have to have the money now? At this point, obviously, I can $70,000-80,000. I don't have to think about that kind of money, right? But when I started, that was a big problem. And so a lot of times, can you go ahead and just give the property to somebody else as a wholesale deal? And you don't have to know a lot. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, Andrew, but I'm not in Mastery. I don't know a lot of investors. Show up at one of the free RIA meetings. And we have a ton of people that are there that would be more than happy to buy your deal, right? You don't have to, as long as you can identify the deal. That's number one, step one. And step two is, can you get the property under contract? That's it, right? But if you have a great deal, I mean, I have a wholesaler that I do business with. Actually, I have two of them that I do business with all the time. They'll find pretty good deals. They don't even have under contract. And they will basically point me in that direction. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll go take a look at it. And I'm happy to take the property. And at the time of sale, I cut them a check. I mean, this year, I give him a check for $60,000 on one property, $25,000, another one, $20,000, another one. Another wholesaler I have, I gave her a check for $40,000, another one, $28,000, another one, I'm just sending a check for another $22,000. And I am very grateful to have these people that show up, and they didn't even have these properties under contract, but they had talked to the seller, they had made a deal, and so all I had to do, tell them was, it's fine, no problem, I'll close the property. Now, obviously, they know if I'm saying something to them that, hey, I'm going to buy the deal, I'm going to buy the deal. And if I say to them, I'm going to pay you, that means I'm going to pay you. I'm not saying that go and just turn over your deals to other people without getting them under contract, because I can't take the guarantee they're not going to go around you. I'm talking about me specifically, right? But especially at the RIA meetings, if you come, you talk to one of the people, Mastery members, we are happy to help you put that deal together, because we want somebody from Mastery to buy the property. So I'll give you guys a perfect example. We had somebody the other day that showed up. Actually, they were at the last 3-day event, and they had a property under contract. Actually, they had found a property that they wanted to get under contract, but the seller wanted $4,000 earnest money, and they just simply didn't have it. So one of the members from Mastery wanted to express an interest. Hey, I would love to buy the property. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Just you get the property under contract, put up the $4,000 earnest money, and you just give them a note saying that, hey, at the time of closing, you're going to make $19,000. That was the wholesale fee that this person wanted, and which is fine, right? The Mastery member benefited tremendously. The person who identified the property, instead of them just doing listing the property, making $4,000 or $5,000 as a commission, now they got the property, they helped this person get the property under contract, and they're making $19,000 on a wholesale, which is perfectly fine, right? And see, you as a person, you don't have to have money. You don't have to have credit. You create value because you can identify a deal, right? And see, money is something that you have to earn. Credit is something you have to build. But identifying a property is all based on, can you learn how to find a deal? And that's a learned skill set, right? See, that is something that you learn. You're not born with it. You don't have to know it from day one. That is something that you can learn to be able to do that. So this is important to keep that at the back of your mind. And if you do have any properties that you're like, oh my God, I think this is a great deal, right? Send it over to us, or come to one of the RIA meetings. We have a ton of them coming up again, and offer those properties up that, hey, I have something, and if you don't have it under contract, personally pull me aside and talk to me. I'm happy to help you with it, and you can I'm happy to buy it, or anybody who's at the RIA, try to get the highest price you can for you. So like this person, like the person who just did the wholesale that were at the last 3-day, somebody else, a couple other people had offered them 11,000, and the person had offered them 14,000. So Andrew, what do you think I should do? I'm like, well, I mean, if I was you, yeah, I should try to make a decent buck on it and try to offer it to a few more people. You don't have to give it to the first person that offered an interest in the property, and they ended up being able to wholesale it for $19,000. That is perfectly fine. Or even better, you partner on that. If you take a look at Jacob and Marissa, they found a property, didn't have a lot of money to be able to get a hard money loan, so they just partnered with Miss Reen from Mastery, right? That's fine also. And when they sold it, they split the profits 50-50. That's perfectly fine. So it's based on, do you have the ability, or are you willing to learn how to be able to find a great deal? The next question was, what is the best mailing companies in Chicagoland to generate off-market deals? Guys, there's no such thing as the best mailing company that is out there. At the end of the day, it's a piece of, it's a piece of paper that you're putting, hey, I'm interested in buying your property, so on and so forth. So there's a million of them, and different people use different ones. We have used in the past, you can use that, the yellow postcard people, yeah, right? Yellow letter people. We use a company called Click, CLICK, 2 Mail, MAIL. Right? We have used them, and it's some sort of, I don't know even where it's from, but their rates were reasonable. You should use somebody that have reasonable rates that don't lock you into a long-term contract, and where you can send a mailing. And hopefully this company, if they can provide, if you're doing, I don't know, 400 pieces, 500 pieces, 800 pieces, 1,000 pieces, as long as the price of those is reasonable, and it's something that you can upload your form letters up on there and then just do the mailing, that's who I would use. But you can give it a try. Click to Mail is somebody that we have used in the past. So we upload our list over there as to who we want to mail it to, and then we upload the letters as to what we're mailing it to. It saves it. You can create an account, and then boom, you can either send a postcard or you can send a letter, whatever you choose to. There's yellow letter. There's a million of them out there. And at the end of the day, the biggest issue is not who's the best. The issue is that what lists are you going to use? Are you going to use a pre-foreclosure list? Are you going to go after a probate list? Are you going to go after a high equity list? Are you going to go after a absentee owner list? So that's the only thing that's going to matter. Whichever list you pick, please make sure you do a minimum of 7 mailings to the same list. So the way you do that is, let's just say you have a total of $4,000, right? You take the 4,000 and divide that number by 7. I would not go and do one mailing to 4,000, of 4,000. What I would do is I would take $4,000, I would divide it by 7, and then each month. So let's just say it's 7/3/21, 7/4/28, 7/5/35, right? So basically, about say 500 pieces, or say 600 pieces, right? It's about 80 cents a piece for a piece of mail. So let's say if you're doing 500 to 600 pieces, you do 600 pieces this month. Now you're going to get a bunch of them back. The bunch of them back are non-deliverables. I take the non-deliverables and I put them through basically a reverse prospecting system, or a skip trace system, where they generate the names and numbers. So whenever you're doing the mailing, I would not only do the mailing, but I would also reach out and text those people. And then I would also call them so that you have a much higher odd. Hey, we sent you a mail about your property. We're looking to buy a property in your area. It doesn't have to be something very complicated, but if you do good text and phone call follow-up, your number of deals that you're going to find is going to go up. Now, mind you, there are other people that just do cold calls, and that works also, but I think there are certain people you'll reach by mail. You may not be able to find their phone numbers. There are other people that you will reach with text and with phone calls. One thing I will suggest to you is that please don't do any robocalling. Robocalling, there are some FTC rules behind it, so don't do robocalling. Even if you do it through a system where you're uploading all the phone numbers and then hitting a button and it'll do the calling for you, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And you're not calling them to sell them anything. You're looking to buy their house. So that solves that problem, right? But make sure you don't do just drop texts to 2,000 people at random, because that may be considered soliciting, and that will come under the FTC guidance. So just please make sure you do it appropriately. But whenever you're doing the mailings, make sure that if you get the mailbacks, right, you get, say, there's 20% of them that are not deliverable. And it's not going to be that high, but you're going to get a handful of them that are non-deliverables. I think you should do some more search behind it to be able to locate the owners, because most investors are not going to do that search. And if you've ever heard Ms. Sharon Warnhold talk about this, she has always said that most of the sales, most of the deals come after the fourth or fifth attempt in terms of trying to reach people. Because at the end of the day, doesn't matter what you say in your letter, it's not going to be any more special than all the other investors that reach out. And generally they'll get, if they have a situation where it's a probate, it's a absentee owner, or if it's a pre-foreclosure, generally they're going to get some sort of mail. They're going to get targeted by some sort of group of investors, right? So hypothetically, let's just say you happen to be nurse, right? Full-time nurse, right? Then I would say, hey, I'm nurse, blah, 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 in my full-time job, and I'm trying to invest to save basically for my kids, whatever the situation is. Sometimes people like that. They want you to be authentic. They're like, oh, I'm not selling this property to some big company, some rich guy. This is a person that is kind of like me. They're trying to invest, right? So that personal touch helps to have that in there. And other people are going to go, no, I'm going to go with a bigger company. So they may look at somebody like our mailing piece and they may say, oh yeah, this is a bigger company. They have a presence. But please make sure whenever you send a mail piece that you at least have a basic website. Doesn't need to be anything very fancy. It can be just a basic website. That way, at least they see you. They're like, oh, wow, they have a website. They're credible people. So if you have that, that definitely helps. Is it a must? No. We have bought many, many properties just from a single mailing of a postcard that we've done the mailing to. But what becomes important is, where are you doing the mailing? I see this awful lot of times that happens where people will do the mailing to the property address. Now, if you're doing a mailing to absentee owner, you don't want to send it to the property address because they're not living there. They're an absentee owner. So it needs to go to the address where the tax bill goes to, right? To a LLC or to wherever the tax bill is being sent to. That becomes something important. And try to weed out the people that have multiple properties in a town. Generally, this is a general thing, that generally, if you're doing a mailing, somebody who owns 5, 6, 10, 15 properties, guess what? They're probably not going to give you a huge discount on properties in most cases, right? They're professional real estate investors. They may already own hundreds of properties, somebody like us, right? We're not, even if we sell our property, we're not going to sell it at a discount. You're generally not going to end up getting a deal on a property from us. We're going to sell it at market. So it's just something to think about, is that you're better off doing business with mom and pops whenever you're doing a mailing. So keep that in mind. That's just something important to keep in mind. Also, please make sure that you do at least 7 mailings is what I would suggest, is to the same group. Now, the ones that keep coming back, right, take those out. Don't just keep wasting money on those ones. Generally, what we have found is, at least this is for me, I haven't done a lot of cold calling. I have a couple of wholesalers I work with. They purely do cold calling. They do no mailings at all, right? And they find a bunch of properties because that is something consistently that they do. So they're able to find properties, right? But that is, you have to decide what is good for you. We have had very good success generally with mailings. Now, the problem is this with mailings. It is not consistent, meaning that if you do a mailing, let's just say January 1st, right, in January, then people may not call you. You'll not get a lot of deals in January. It may be February, March, April before you'll get a deal. And a lot of times whenever you do a mail, people will keep your postcard if they get to you or your piece of mail. So make sure that if you're using a Google Voice number, make sure that if you're using whatever number you're using, besides if you're using your personal cell phone, that's fine, the call will come to you. But make sure that you check your voicemail. A lot of times because once people are curious and they're calling you, now they want to talk to somebody. They want an instantaneous answer. Hey, what is this about? And you're going to get a certain amount of people. Certain people are going to call, well, how did you get my information? Well, I'm sorry, it's public information, right? It's like everybody has that information sometimes. And think about this. Sometimes, once in a while, you get somebody really irate. Oh my, how dare you mail me? I'm like, what, do you call everybody that sends you junk mail in the in your mailbox and get mad at them? No, you get thousands of pieces of junk mail. All of us do. So it's like, I don't know what's there to get mad about. Just toss it. It's no big deal. But you'll get people that want to do something, and then you have to be religious about follow-up, right? That becomes really, really, really important. Follow-up, the money is in the follow-up. It's not in the first contact. So you got to keep that in mind. As far as, do you recommend somebody who needs capital to get HELOC to start do you recommend someone who needs capital to get a HELOC to start investing in real estate? I'm assuming the question is that, do you recommend using your HELOC to start investing in real estate? I'm assuming that's the question. The way it's phrased is kind of confusing. So that's how I started. Right, my very first property, I still own a townhouse. At the time, I used to live in Bartlett, 1821 Gulfview Drive in Bartlett, and it was a townhouse that I had bought as a foreclosure. I fixed it up. That was my first fix-up. This is 2007, and in 2008, I went and got a HELOC against that property. HELOC is home equity line of credit. So I had a loan on it from Chase, and then I got a HELOC. At the time, they gave me a $50,000 HELOC, and then they reduced it. The mortgage market was crazy at the time, and they reduced it down to like $22,000 or something. And I went and got $20,000 from Chase. I had a friend of mine, and I said, hey, man, I'm going to start doing flips. This is my business plan. And he said, okay, I'll throw in 20,000 also. So I took that 20,000, mine, 20,000 of his. And my deal at the time was, hey, if we lose money, I lose my 20,000 first. He looked at me like I was crazy, but I didn't know what else to do. I had no confidence in myself at the time, and I was scared. But I was like, I knew I was willing to work my butt off. So I literally used that 40,000 initial capital, 20 from me, 20 from him, and I did my first flip. So the way I did the flip was I took that money, I put that as a down payment, and then I got a hard money loan at the time, right? And at the time, I didn't know who to go to. So there used to be a bank in Schaumburg. It was called World Savings Bank or something like that. They're out of business now. But at the time, that's who I got the loan from. And I made a mistake at the time. I got a 3-2-1 prepay penalty on that loan. So even though I paid it off in less than 4 months, I had to pay 3 points, penalty points on that silly loan. You don't have to do that. You can just go call Jesse at National RE Funding. It's National RE Funding. And he will be happy to do a loan for you. If you're brand new, have no experience, you're gonna have to put down 15% down as your down payment of the purchase price, and then the rest of it, they'll fund it for you. If you have experience, you only have to come up with 10%, and 100% of the rehab gets funded from them. So what it would look like is, let's say you're basically buying a property where you're buying, let me just keep numbers even. So let's say you're buying the property for $100,000. You have to come up with $15,000 because if you don't have experience yet, and then put, say, $10,000 or so worth of work they'll reimburse you 10,000. Then you do another 10,000 work, they'll reimburse you that. So they'll give you 100% of the funds that are needed for rehab. So that's kind of how I did my first project, is that I put down payment, bought the property, did some work, got the draw, then did the next phase of work, got the draw, and then I basically completed the project. That's how I did it. You can do the exact same thing with HELOC. Phenomenal way to get started in today's market. The next question that came in is, I'm buying a property for $310,000 and I intend to do $122,000 in work, and I'm going to flip this particular property. I'm not going to give out the address. This property is in Chicago, but I'm not giving out the address because this person currently is working on this. And so I ran the comps on this particular property. So let me just, so they're basically doing 310,000 in work, 310 in work, plus 120,000 is their rehab amount. So what is this? 310 plus 120. So that's 430, right? Their purchase price plus rehab price would come at 430. He's saying that on this particular property, he can sell the property for 550. And so the question is, what do I think? So I did the comps on this particular property. I believe 550 is too high for that property, period, right? I think, in my opinion, 510 for sure. 100% that they can sell this property for 510, right? And they are buying, their all-in cost is going to be 430, but what they're not accounting for is they're going to have some more costs as far as selling costs, carrying costs, so on and so forth. So when I account for those costs, number one was, so there are four costs you have to consider. Number one cost you have to consider is obviously the buy price, of course. Then number two, you have to consider, actually number one you have to consider is rehab. That's one cost. Number two, what is the cost of money? Because they're not able to pay cash for the property, so they're going to borrow money on that. So what is the cost of capital or cost of money on the property? Number three, it's going to be utilities and some carrying cost that they're going to have while they are working on the property. They're going to have cost of paying utilities, taxes, all that kind of stuff, insurance, so on and so forth. And then they're going to have a fourth cost, and that's going to be your cost of selling the property. You're going to pay a real estate agent, you're going to pay an attorney, you're going to pay a title company, all those costs, right? So if I put out all of those costs whenever I look at it, so number one, they're saying it's going to cost them $120,000 to rehab this property. To rehab this property, in my personal opinion, this is just my opinion, if I did it at my cost, right, even I could not get this rehab done for 120. It is an extensive rehab on this property. And I think it's going to be a minimum for them $150,000 on this property to get the rehab done. And they don't have any rehabbing experience. So my first question to them was, I'm like, why are you taking on such a big rehab? They're like, well, that's what we were told to do. They went to some program, that's what they were told to do. I'm like, listen, clearly I would not, if they were for mastery, 100% would tell them, please do not do this rehab, right? What I would do is, my preference on this would be is take the 310, so get a home inspection done. They don't have a home inspection done. I would use that home inspection to renegotiate the contract in this particular case. And the reason I know that they can do that, is there are some, and I'm purposely not mentioning what the problems are in this particular property because this is a listed property and people will be able to find it. So I don't want to spill their beans, just to be in fairness to them, right? There are some substantial issues in the property, and I know if it's properly brought up in a home inspection report and that is presented properly, they can get at least $25,000 to $30,000 off, right? If not more, if they know how to present it properly. So that's the first thing we would do, is that go and get a home inspection done, have that written up, get a cost of what it would be to remediate these issues, and then renegotiate the number. This is me. I had looked at this property, I know the property, and I know it can be gotten for significantly cheaper. And they got into a bidding war, and that's why they're paying what they're paying. So my suggestion to them would be is try to renegotiate the contract based on the home inspection on the property. And there are some other issues that they can find with the city that I know exist on that particular property, so they can renegotiate the number down almost 35 to 40,000. That's my opinion. Once you renegotiate the number down, then don't even do a flip on the property, just wholesale the property to another investor. The market for a lot of people are looking for flips. A lot of people have no idea what they're doing in today's market. So these people could literally wholesale the property, make 40, 50,000 bucks and walk away from the deal. And the next person who will pay for the property, kind of the price 310 or 315 in that ballpark, will have paid too much for this deal. At the current price, I just don't think there's enough margin in this deal. They'll barely make any money, if at all, right? Because when you account for the cost of money, when you account for cost of overruns, when you account for cost of carrying the property, this is not a good investment for them. So I sent them the answer back. I'm like, listen, this is how I would approach it. That's my opinion. If you take it, great. If you don't take it, that's fine also. But this particular property that this person is doing, I would not do. If they were from Mastery, absolutely, we would talk them out of it. But that's just my personal opinion. So hopefully some of these Q&As that we do make some sense to you guys. Again, congratulations to the guys from Mastery that closed on their 4-unit. And having said that, we will see you again on Wednesday. Make sure you join. Make sure you share the group. And we want to continue to grow. And it has been growing by leaps and bounds over the last few months. We appreciate the support. We appreciate everybody that joins in for the lives. Again, thank you so much. We will talk to you 5:30, same place, same time on Wednesday. Thanks a bunch.